3, 2, 1. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Nick.
I'm Jill.
And we're HipStrings. Yay, we finally got that to work after how many times?
6.
That's
Sixth
right.
time.
It's 6.
No, that's 5. 6.
There you go. It's 6. Man, that drink I made you must be good. Welcome to day 6 of our Base12 Spinalong. That means
December 17th?
Yeah. That means we're halfway through.
Yes.
Or we will be halfway through.
We will be halfway through when we finish today.
So this is, if you guys are splitting it amongst 2 bobbins, this is the last day on this bobbin.
Yeah. So.
I'm going to try and not fall too far behind you now. What number
Woo!
is that?
Today is a signature blend. This is Dragonfly, which you guys can't buy. But it's been replaced by the lovely Shimmer. So if you like Dragonfly,
Hey, what day is
and
today?
want some more, today's 6. You've done 6.
Today is 6?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I could do the same thing as you, because I apparently don't remember what day it is.
We've only mentioned it like 4 times.
Well, I was confused because you says it's 17th, and I thought we were on number 17. No. What? My drink is
It doesn't
good too.
work that way. We
Right.
start on the day 12.
Oh, yes. So, welcome. I rolled my die. It is yet again a day that I can't tell you what it is, but the probability of that is getting less and less as we go along. So, the more days that I don't tell you means the more days I will tell you, or something like that in the future. There's something that my probability teacher is telling me in the back of my head that there's an equation we can figure out for that, and I just really don't want to.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so today's blend is Dragonfly. It's a 75 Merino, 25% mulberry silk.
Okay, and you said that people can't buy that. Why can't they buy it now?
Because I sold out of it, and I'm not going to get more.
Ever?
I really like Shimmer. Shimmer is
Okay.
a better version. Shimmer is like Peacocky and Dragonfly had a baby. And it was better.
There's so many questions there about a sexual reproduction of fiber.
How else do you explain our basement?
That is true. They just keep replicating. They're like tribbles.
Yep.
In every sense. The trouble with tribbles. Speaking of which, I thought it was I mentioned this too when we were watching it, but I thought it was a terribly missed opportunity in Star Trek Picard. And they had some sort of weird, like, stuffed animal for the little girl. And I was just like, they should have had a tribble. Just a stuffed tribble or something. I mean, there's never anything cute and fluffy in Star Trek unless it's a tribble.
Yeah.
There's no cuteness in the future. Oh, God.
We're doomed.
Molly Singh says, hello. Hello, Molly. Good evening. Good morning. Good afternoon. I have to get used to...
Middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get used to that because for work meetings, I'll, you know, if I'm meeting with China or Europe, or I haven't met with Australia yet. I wonder if we even have business there. I mean, we must, but apparently nothing important for me. Dave says, could be worse. Could be Furbies multiplying. Don't look behind you. Ah! They're not multiplying. He's just...
No, they are multiplying in our basement, too.
We need to set it up for multiple days. Okay. That one's fallen asleep now. He was very surprised yesterday. I don't know if you noticed. Yes, Furbies are a thing in our house.
They asexually reproduce in our house.
Yeah. Yeah. And they grow longer.
Yeah. Apparently, the breeder of the house is selecting for longer Furbies.
Yeah. The latest one
is 9 feet.
Was it 9 feet? Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was 9 or 10 feet.
Well, they're 110 inches.
Yeah.
For the spine. which is just over a 9-foot spine.
Yep. We have to. So maybe we should explain exactly what the hell we're talking about. There is.
There's a phenomenon.
Phenomenon is a perfect word for it. Known as long Furbies, where people will take a Furby face or a Furby body and remove the innards, but
And then
replace it.
extend the torso.
Replace it with a skin that is long. Maybe add some accessories, some additional arms or legs. It is.
Gab needs to make a millipede Furby.
They exist. I've seen pictures of one.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It is simultaneously terrifying and adorable. And so what we've taken to do, because I do not condone
Furby destruction.
hurting Furbies, hurting actual Furbies, we 3D print Furby faces and attach those to.
Yeah. Gab has now made 3.
Gab has completed 4 total,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, they were in the midst of a massive.
Because remember, they made one for their friend.
Yeah.
As well. And yeah, Gab has decided that they are going to make custom Furbies for everyone in the family for Christmas. So, Furbies are in fact multiplying in our basement.
Yeah. And Gab gets another new long Furb.
Yes, the names are also wonderfully long. Lord Berrywinkle Sasquatch of the Night was Gab's first Furby.
Yeah.
I can't remember, what's the name of the latest one?
I don't remember.
It's
I just know he's monochrome.
Yeah, it's like Snowfrost something or other.
He does have a long title.
Yeah. So we've got some additional comments. Molly says, post dinner in Pacific Standard Time. But yeah, get the good morning to Asia meeting. Also says, starting off with day 9 chosen by the die. And Dave says, yes, explain long Furbies to corrupt the blissfully ignorant. Yep. I would recommend looking it up. Yeah, I think I can recommend it. It's only moderately traumatizing. No, the funny thing is, I mean, Furbies are kind of creepy, you know, especially when you open their eyes real wide. They're kind of
just force them open.
Yes, but they're kind of cute too, and so as a result, the community seems to have taken to all the horror tropes with Furbies. So they're not actually scary, but maybe a little bit. I don't know.
A little unnatural.
Unnerving is the word.
Yes.
Yes, unnerving. I grew up with Furbies too, so I thought they were great from a mechanical, electrical standpoint. I thought it was a huge innovation. Knew that was the turning point when everybody would start having digital pets. Apparently, I was very, very wrong.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet.
No. One day. And if
digital pets don't eat your yarn or bite holes in your sweater
or growl at you when you walk by them. Actually, they might.
Or bite holes in your sweater.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your latest anger with Luna? Our rabbit.
Guess who has a hole in their sweater from the rabbit? And it's like 3 rows bitten through.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't just accidentally do it. She was trying to do damage.
Mm-hmm. So now I don't think I have any waste yarn for that. I think I have something that might be close. I might have to, custom make a bat and spin a tiny little bit of...
Did you have your sweater on the floor? Is that how she got
I think it fell down onto the floor.
She also went...
She tried to eat some wool yesterday. There was some fleece on... Yes, there was some fleece on the floor. She grabbed it and then proceeded to try to eat it. So I took it away from her.
Well, see, the clear problem is she doesn't have enough fiber in her diet. And that's not even the dad joke of the day.
No, it's not.
My dad joke is really tasteless today.
Is it an uncle joke?
No. And for the clarification of that, dad jokes are jokes that your dad
You can tell
tells,
your kid.
and that you can tell your kid. Uncle jokes are the kind that your uncle tells, the creepy uncle that says all sorts of inappropriate things that make you uncomfortable. Yeah. We don't share those on this podcast, but we do enjoy them off camera.
Okay, I know there's a new comment.
Okay, so Molly says Uncanny Valley Furby.
Yeah. Kind of.
The only reason I'm pausing on that is that the
They're
term Uncanny Valley
means
is,
it almost looks like something real.
yeah. So maybe because that Furby clearly doesn't look like something
fuzzy
real.
Snakes.
But, yeah, right. No. Yeah, like something on the edge of a nightmare. We're not quite there yet. And then Sessa says, "Oh my God, my cat also bites holes in my sweaters. I had to teach myself to darn. I can make you a darning mushroom."
Yeah, I will need to darn it.
Oh darn.
I mean, she also bit when she was living in our bedroom. She bit several holes in my like hand spun blanket that's on our bed.
Queen
Which
size
I darned.
blanket.
Queen size from my like first fleece I fully spun up. And I darned it. As well as biting a Pendleton wool blanket.
And maybe I was going to say don't get her started, but maybe I should get you started on the impact she had to your wheel.
Well, yeah, she bit through a drive band and the bobbin band for my Aura one day.
Which took skill.
Took skill.
Going out of her way to find that.
Gates going up this weekend. So she will no longer have access to do this damage.
Hollis and Strav says, "Hello, you two fun fiber friends. I'm just back from Ephemera? Ephemera. There you go. Oh God, there's another hard word.
Paducah.
Paducah? Yeah, okay, Paducah.
Kentucky.
Ephemera, Paducah, Kentucky. Needle felting workshop and some spinning too. I was somewhere caught up in recovery help because of the tornado. Oh, wow.
Oh. Well, bless you for helping out.
Yeah.
We had a teeny tiny tornado go nearby this summer, and that was scary enough.
Literally,
and it was like an F1. And, you know, mostly it ripped up some roofs and damaged a lot of trees. But nothing like what, you know, Kentucky went through.
Yeah. And we drove through, many years back, we drove through a city in Kansas.
Greensburg, Kansas, which got flattened by an F5.
Completely destroyed. So, I mean, we've seen that type of damage firsthand. It is insane. So, yeah, thank you for doing whatever part you can to help out. Stephanie is asking, so new product testing for darning tools? I should probably get back to the idea that I had one a while ago. So a lot of people will talk about darning eggs, which just seem weird to hold.
And you made a darning mushroom.
Which I can't take credit for it. I found it on the internet. I found a 3D model for it, printed it up, and brought it in, and it worked really well. It's basically a dome section with a handle to hold on to it. So that makes it nice and easy.
It's a nice flatter surface in the eggs.
Yeah. But the one thing that we thought could be modified for it is to make a little cavity to hold your needles and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe extra yarn or whatever. So in the little handle, make that a screw cap or something. So maybe I gotta try out my 3D modeling skills and see if I can make something that has a little screw cap on the bottom.
That would be cool.
Hollis, by the way, says, spinning the beautiful fiber each day was a delight. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you, yeah. You're the one that's spinning it, so. And we also couldn't or wouldn't do this without all of you guys, so we really appreciate it.
Hi.
Hi. I'm gonna stop. My wonderful sweater is extremely warm.
This is much more comfortable without when I have a back.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You have a spine now?
I have a spine. I've been missing one for the last 5 days.
I'm very impressed with your ab strength then by holding your entire body up with no spine.
No, my spine doesn't work very well as it is.
Well, there's that. Yes?
Just my hand. I've been crocheting a bunch. Spinning on castle wheel, which is not always happy for my hands. And then I started knitting sweater for the youngest. And I'm knitting, it's small, it starts with the sleeves. Why would anybody do this to themselves? And just the small diameter knitting always bothers my hands. And I'm knitting with doing magic loop. And I'm wondering if I use a different needle setup, it'll make my hands feel better. It's a rib. There's a lot of purling. So I don't know. I might see if I have enough tips to make some like flexi DPNs. Because I think that's what's easiest on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go to other options like 2 circs or... I don't want to do DPNs.
Why not?
I lose things. I lose stitches.
Well, you also have the situation where you've had, left the needles on the couch and kids jump around and the couch and end up snapping them in half. So
I think I have access to getting stainless steel DPNs in this size because I just expanded the stainless steel DPNs I carry because I used to only carry them up to like a size 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently bumped it up to like size 8.
But stainless steel DPNs I don't like because they're too slippy. So
yeah, I'm more likely to lose stitches.
Yeah,
That's why I don't like doing things on DPNs unless I know nobody's going to touch my knitting, and that doesn't happen for my knitting in the basement.
Yeah.
But I do usually like the flexi DPNs. So
but why not like a bamboo DPN?
I could pick up some bamboo DPNs. That is an option too. I have those in the shop.
What's flexi?
Flexis are so I have Xiaogu's. So Xiaogu came out with tiny little like 2-inch long cables.
Mm-hmm.
So then you attach interchangeable tip on either side of those and you make 3 of those. And then you knit on them like DPNs, but you only have 2 like needles to work off of instead of like 3 or 4. But because they have this little flexible cable in the middle, you can get the bend to do a circle. When I've gotten to work them out, it works out great, but it requires having 6 interchangeable tips in one size.
Wow, yeah.
Which either like I do have that for some of my most frequent sizes, but that requires me not to be using those tips in any other project. Which, because I use such a limited, like, needle sizes, is rare. And I like at least a 3-inch tip. Like, I've got the shorty sets, which have 2-inch and 3-inch tips, but I don't really like the 2-inch tips. They're too short. I like the 3-inch tips, and I like 4-inch tips. So I can make it work, but it takes some planning.
I really don't like the short tips.
Well, you have giant hands.
That is why.
I can see why you wouldn't like working with 3-inch tip. Well, the other thing is,
as I'm knitting, I like using the leverage from the back of my hand.
Yeah.
And when I have the short tips, they end up in the middle of my hand, and I don't get the leverage.
So the tips I'm knitting with my magic loop right now are 5-inch
We're never gonna finish.
ones.
Sorry, go ahead.
are 5-inch tips, and I think I'm actually having problems because they are so long, and I'm bending my wrist too much. I think I do best with a 4-inch tip. That's what I normally knit with.
So these are the little details that you need to work out for ergonomics when you spin or when you knit a lot.
Because this isn't a spinning live stream; it's secretly a knitting one. Can't you
It's
tell we're knitting?
It's a very early phase knitting. Let's see, no new comments. Just some weird notification that I have no idea what it is. Something with my computer. So I didn't realize that this was the weekend that Spider-Man came out.
I didn't either.
Yeah, it kind of snuck up on me. We haven't seen it. We're excited to. Although I wanted to show the kids the other Spider-Man movies.
I wonder if we could grab like a middle of the week, middle of the day showing next week, so that
I'm sure we could.
Empty theater.
Yep. They don't need our help with the opening weekend numbers.
We could go like Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
We're now employing all of our strategies for avoiding people in public. Like going to the zoo in the rain when it's chilly.
Because we like avoiding people not just because of the pandemic, but because we like avoiding people. It's so much nicer to go to the zoo when it's not packed.
I have issues with crowds. So...
but in general,
it's much nicer when there's less people around.
Yeah, I think that is easily acceptable by all people.
And so, one of our children was asking me, was telling me he misses going out and doing things, which this is the child who is a complete homebody and does not ever want to leave the house. So if he's missing out on normal activities,
something's wrong.
Something needs to be done. And so I asked him, like, okay, you're the one who never wants to leave the house. Like, what do you want to do? And he said the big thing he's been missing is going to the zoo, going to the aquarium, because we've been trying to avoid indoor spaces, and seeing the penguins. And as of today, we are a fully vaxxed family. So we're like, okay, we can go to the zoo and go to the aquarium and see the penguins.
Are they doing the penguin walk yet?
They will be doing it this winter. I don't know if they've set dates yet.
So at the Pittsburgh, it gets cold enough that at the zoo they will take the penguins out to go for a walk outside. So you can get pretty darn close to them.
Yeah, we've done it before. And you get a couple feet away from the penguins.
Yeah, it's adorable. I love penguins. Except the Danny DeVito one. He's creepy. I missed a whole bunch here. Okay. Molly says, my solution is 9-inch circs, but that sounds like a bad idea for you, Jill. I like 4-inch tips, but I also love just spiraling in the round more. Kathleen says, I've got big hands, but 4-inch tips fit my hands well. The taper hits right inside the bend where my pinky joins my hand, and I like the leverage that gives me. Stephanie says, so topic idea, more in-depth discussion of project choices with finished base 12 yarn, how to choose projects utilizing handspun.
Okay, well, I'll get to that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about needles. So yes, I like 9-inch circs too. I use them for socks, some, because it is the fastest needle arrangement for me for knitting, like stockinette. I don't like it if I have to purl, because I need a little bit more leverage. I purl weird. And also, this is a child sweater, so I'm not even sure that a 9-inch circ is gonna... It is a very small diameter right now, because we're going from the wrist up. So that's why I think the Flexi DPNs will be the best choice for this particular thing. And this is why you have to have all the needles.
Yeah,
and why I like being a crocheter too, because there's just only one hook. And you can switch your hooks between projects without really disrupting your projects.
Unless you use, what, Tibetan is the...
Tunisian.
Tunisian, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's when you have like a hook with a long thing.
A hook with a shaft.
Yeah. So I have like one crochet hook of every size, and they cost me like $4 a piece. Whereas, let's not talk about how much I've invested in knitting needles.
Well, also because we have 2 sets, because I, of course, love the ones that you can't use.
You love ones I can't use. I have nickel allergies, so I have to be picky about my needles.
And I fell in love with carbons, and I actually don't really knit with anything else, do I?
No. And then I recently fell in love with the Diet Craft Northern Lights, which are their anodized aluminum needles. And those are my favorites. And I will like purposely try to figure out how I can use those needles on a particular project. But those are...
I'm going to try those out. I haven't tried them.
You do. I've got 5-inch tips for you to try out. Because I love you.
Oh, I love you too. I don't have tips for you though.
So yeah. So that's why I'm not doing 9-inch circs. I do have the shorties kits because you can make like anywhere from an 8 to 12-inch. And I love the 9 to 12-inch range for knitting sleeves, for adult sleeves.
But kid sleeves,
Kid sleeves, it's a little bit too narrow of a diameter. Okay. And then projects for base 12
By the way, there is
is there more?
Needle comment there.
Yeah.
Same on 9-inch circs and purling. All knit is fine, but purling hurts my wrist on 9-inch.
Yep.
Okay. Projects for base 12.
Projects for base 12.
So halfway
so
through
what
the halfway
we've done
day.
before is we've used it for one of the colors in a night shift shawl. So that's any of the patterns that use spin cycle yarn work really well with hand spun because spin cycle is faux hand spun.
Yeah. Well, so let's take a step back, right? So the biggest anxiety that people have about using hand spun is
you want to use every little bit of it.
Well, not only that, but you also have a you don't have necessarily consistent gauge, right?
Unless you're like checking your rafts per inch throughout.
Yes. So you're not likely to have a consistent gauge. For most people. So yeah, there's a lot of anxiety of what do I make with this?
Yeah.
So in general, things that don't require fitting are great, right?
Yeah. If you're worried about that consistency, accessories that are not fitted are great ways.
Shawls, scarves.
Color work or like slip stitch patterns are also a great way to get over.
Yeah, so that's the other thing.
Consistency issues.
If you have a main, another mill spun yarn, and you use this as an accent for a color work, then that works out really well.
Right.
Too. And that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of, whoops, no.
Because like the night shift is a slip stitch pattern.
We were talking about if I wanted to make a sweater with my base 12 from last year, I can...
Which has some consistency issues.
Thank you.
You're growing.
I am growing. In an inconsistent fashion. But I can use that as part of a color work, and the more intense or I don't know what the right word is, the more dominant the color work is, the more impact you're going to have from the inconsistency in the yarn.
Right. And so, and like last year, I made mine into an everyday desk shawl by Kate Atherley, who just released today a booklet of 10 patterns that build on that shawl pattern, but with a variety of different stitch patterns. Highly recommend. I already bought it because I think it's going to be a great thing for using hand spun.
Jill was already like, oh, Nick, you need to do a pattern out of this from your base 12 last year.
Yeah.
What pattern do you think? I don't know. I just like
Pick one of the 10.
I just know they're all going to be awesome.
The shape is good. Pick a stitch pattern that you like. Because 6 ounces is a really good amount of yarn for something to throw around your neck.
Yep. So there's a couple of comments here related to the our penguin discussion. One from Jan saying, "I totally agree on avoiding people." And then
One
Dave.
of us. One of us.
Exactly. Which is kind of ironic because you're like, well,
there's a lot of us that
just don't like us. I mean, other us is, I mean, yes. Let's take
they
a
don't
drink
like
to
the
that.
masses.
Yeah. You guys are all wonderful in small doses.
Yeah.
And then Dave says he feels like the penguin walks start in January.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can get within a few feet of the penguins, no barrier between, just a rope to find the walkway. And I've seen situations where the penguins actually are getting
Go off
curious
into
about
the crowd.
little kids or something. They go off into the crowd, steal a kid's Cheerios
I
or
love
something.
the zoo, like, put up on, like, social media the other day. Yes, we are open during the winter.
Apparently,
Which I love going to the zoo in the winter because it's empty.
Yeah.
This is why I also, like, when the kids were really little, I really liked going to the museums during the middle of the week. Because they're empty.
Everything's empty during. Well, it used to be. Actually, weirdly enough, since
Things
the
have gotten
pandemic
busier
started,
during our empty times.
Yeah.
Other people picking up on the how to avoid people.
Yeah.
But man, I would really love to somehow build back on my schedule a chance to, you know, go to museums sometime during the week. And now I could do it all by myself.
You could. You don't even need me along anymore.
I might do that.
Before I wallow in my depression there about you having fun without me, Sasa notes, really fun to feel the comparison between the mulberry silk in this blend with the tussa in past blends.
Yep. So there's a big difference in spinning between tussa silk and mulberry silk. I think tussa is a little bit easier to spin. Mulberry can be a little bit more finicky, and that's because mulberry, because it is a reeled fiber, it is a single continuous filament that's pulled from the silk cocoon, and then they end up cutting it to a certain staple length for spinning, but it is a very smooth fiber. It's much smoother than like tussa silk, and so it can have the tendency to kind of just hold on to itself and not play nicely with wool. And
so you get these big slubs of just
silk. Tussa silk can have, sometimes it's not processed very well and will have slubs. But tussa silk, it is not a single long filament. It comes off of the cocoon in a regular staple length, or relatively. And so it can, if you get the fiber, the wool and the silk matched staple length wise, it can draft a lot nicer than mulberry silk.
And then the sari silk.
And then the sari silk,
I was impressed to know where it actually comes from.
Yeah, it actually comes from Indian saris that are being recycled. So they take, it's recycled clothing or waste from textile production. And they basically, you know, grind it up to break up the fibers. And depending on how they do it and depending what the source material is, sometimes you'll get stuff that's really soft and downy. Sometimes you'll get stuff that's more like a whole bunch of threads. Sometimes you'll get recycled sari silk that's a mix of that downy and the long threads, which is like what's going on in Odin, which Odin is now sold out. You'll now have to buy Odinson, which has a sari silk in it that's less likely to clump. It's the downy type of sari silk, which doesn't slub as easily. So it's not all sari silk is the same. Every color is different. So I know a lot of fiber people, they'll spin something once and be like, oh, I don't like that. I'm never going to spin that again. And not realize that there are batch differences or processing differences. And I've spun like BFL that was awful to spin, and I've spun BFL that was amazing to spin.
So that's kind of like what you're saying is that sari silk is like the abusive boyfriend. No, baby, I've changed. Come back. I'm softer and downier now. Believe me.
I won't slub like I did last week in that other blend.
Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
Now, Sorry Silk is going to be the abusive boyfriend of the fiber world to me.
Is
the rest of my life.
Is that a new colorway name?
No.
Abusive boyfriend?
No.
That it's just Sorry Silk?
No.
It's just a big clump of silk?
No, I've known people who've tried to spin Sorry Silk all by itself.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Like an abusive boyfriend. All right. Moving on. Jan Johnson says, I didn't realize it was a different silk tonight. My spinning is wanting to get really thin.
Mulberry silk has that effect on people.
And Hollis says, yes, that's Sorry Silk. Dave says, wow, I spun fast today. Done already. And Hollis continues, I guess, the comment from before. Clumps and pops of color.
Yes. Yeah. So the nice thing with Sorry Silk is you do get those lovely pops of color.
I think I'm like maybe halfway done. You're a demon, Dave. Speed demon.
Well, he's on a different day.
All the days have the same amount.
Yes, but some fibers are easier to draft than others, and he could be spinning thicker than you.
Well, I know he's spinning thicker than me. Again, I am not taking this as a race. I am competing with myself on consistency. Everybody's got their own fiber journey. You're not competing with anyone else. If you feel like you are spinning inconsistently, just remember, I was spinning inconsistently last year. And maybe I am doing it again this year. I don't know yet.
Yeah, you don't really know until you get the fiber off and you let it relax a little.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't believe in formulas saying spin this wraps per inch to get this wraps per inch plied. Because I'm fairly certain that is influenced by how you're spinning. And the fiber you're spinning.
The twist that's in there, the tension you're holding on it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, if you're really trying to hit a target for your spinning and you absolutely need it to be a certain thing, you do have to sample and wash and finish the yarn. And then, you take notes at every step of that way. And if you manage to get a sample that works, then you keep your drafting style consistent and your wraps per inch consistent. And then you'll get the final thing. And I've done that. I've done spinning where, I was assigned it had to come out this way. Yeah, and thankfully it was only a single. It was a single ply, not a ply. It was a singles yarn. But I had to take it all the steps to. Now, I was lucky and it worked out. And I only had to sample once. Because I started by using formulas and knowing what I generally get in terms of poofage for a particular blend.
Measure once, cut twice, right? That's the adage.
Yeah, no.
By the way, Dave says he is definitely competing with us. So congratulations, you win. I feel like we need to send him a little 3D printed trophy or something. Stephanie says, I will say that the dice chose a fiber for me today that wants to spin significantly thinner. Thinner than yesterday's choice. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, I would say...
The hope is that it is possible to spin all of these at around the same grist.
Yes. And I would say that's what I've been achieving. Except for
But Odin, it may take a little bit more focus for some fibers versus others.
Odin was all over the place for me.
Well, isn't that just Odin?
Yes. It's because you broke his legs. I mean, his horse's legs.
I broke his horse's
I mean,
legs.
his grandson's legs?
Yes, I broke his grandson's legs.
And yeah, there definitely is some that I have to focus on one thickness for another. But I would say that in general, all of these I'm spinning thinner than in general what I have spun in the past. Now I'm really anxious about getting back to my giant alpaca spin because like I'm gonna have to really focus to try and get the same consistency.
I really should get you back on that spin so I can clear some space. That alpaca's taking up a lot of room.
Yeah, sorry. It's a beautiful fleece.
It is. It's volumetric demand of how priority.
Once I'm
Is it
done
fluffy?
with Base12.
Spin it first. You should finish some plying so you have some more finished yarn.
What do I need to apply? Just the
You have
alpaca?
some black sparkly alpaca with
Yeah.
some marled alpaca that you were
I don't know what I'm
gonna
do with that though.
You just don't want to apply it until you know what you're gonna do with it?
I guess I should ply it. I gotta chain ply that though.
I thought you were gonna marl it.
With brown?
No, you have black sparkly and you have
I've got white sparkly?
White and black marled.
Oh, okay. Do I have all that
I'll
spun
show
up already?
You. Yeah.
Oh,
it's
wow.
ready to ply.
Thanks, past Nick.
Instant gratification.
Dave says, by the way, Odin definitely did get a little funky. Wow. Wait, how much do you have left? My God. Yeah, we're going to be here a while. Oh, by the way, yesterday, did you hear that by North Korea law, we are no longer allowed to smile for the next 10 days?
I thought it was laughing.
No, no smiling.
No smiling or laughing?
Might be no laughing.
Mm.
I don't know. But I don't pay that close attention to North Korean law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You laugh at the North Koreans.
Yeah. I'm
Kim Jong-un is going to come after you.
I'm sufficiently far away.
He can see you on the internet.
I am on the internet now. Uh-oh. Do they even have the internet there?
I don't know.
Probably, but...
Not most people.
Right. Does Kim Jong-un watch cat videos?
Somebody at Google knows Kim Jong-un's search history.
Wow.
Okay. I can take my time here.
Yeah, you
Enjoy my drink. Try to fix my hair.
I need your throne example. My chair is getting a little bit tough for me.
Well, I keep on wanting to buy more sheepskins, and you keep on telling me no.
Because we have enough.
We have one giant one, which is like 4 sheepskins together from Costco. Because we had an infant child who would not let go.
Yes.
We have a tiny little IKEA sheepskin that's barely anything.
Yes.
And then I have
because we had another child who would not let go.
Yes. And then I have my one nice sheepskin that you bought me from.
Yes.
And you have not allowed us to add additional sheepskins from.
Do we need a sheepskin per person in the family?
Possibly. I don't think there would be objections.
Yeah, just to know where we put them all.
Chairs.
Yeah.
How many blankets do we have per person in this family?
Sasa says, my Korean wife and I are involved in the Korea peace movement, so I'd prefer no jokes about it. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you for the notice. I know that it's difficult to make those sorts of comments, so we appreciate you bringing our awareness to it. But yeah, with the sheepskin. What was your last comment?
How many blankets do we have?
Yeah, right. Well, you were even saying we've got too many blankets because you.
Yes, because
and
there's
yet you want to knit more.
Yes,
And
because there are like 3 or 4 blankets per person in this household.
I am in support of knitting more blankets. You're the one that's saying that we don't have enough room for it, so I guess there's some inconsistency there. We have Dave saying 1 per person in the family, plus 1 for Meredith to use at parties for sheepskin. Also, Meredith is done now, too. All right. I feel like we need like a leaderboard of when people are finished. And then we can divide it by their grist.
Some sort of metrics.
Yeah.
I always felt like the Spinzilla, like, who can spin the most yardage is not... Like, there's so many ways to measure productivity.
Well, yardage is good because you can get... If you spin it thinner, then you get longer. Right?
Yeah.
And that is a measure of skill, because if you spin it like frog hair thin, that's very impressive. And you have a theoretical limited amount of time.
I kind of wonder what the like balance is between thickness and yardage. Because you put a lot of extra...
Well, that's your grist, right?
Well,
Like,
that's yardage, but that's density. But like, okay, if you're spinning super thin, like, could you produce more singles to produce a garment or fabric that's going to cover a certain surface area?
Well, it depends on how you knit it, too, or how you weave it.
Yeah, this is how I can, like, sheep to shawl. You're trying to think of productivity in terms of, you know, you have a certain amount of area that you need to produce within a certain amount of time.
Done.
I'm done. And we had people on our team where spinning a like 8 wraps or 10 wraps per inch single for the weft took more concentration than spinning like a 14 to 18 wraps per inch single. So spinning something thicker was harder.
Okay.
But you would think, oh, but spinning 8-inch per wraps is going to be faster because it's thicker.
It's going to cover more area.
It's going to cover more area. Now it had to be that because we were trying to get a balanced weave with our warp, and our warp was worsted weight. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it would be faster for me to produce like a thinner single that would get plied, that would...
Yeah.
So I know people on sheep to shawl teams that have figured out that spinning thinner and then plying is actually faster.
Oh, really? Okay, I was just about to ask that, right? So you've got the time that it's going to take. So, by the way, we've got Kathleen says, I've got more than 4 blankets per person in my household, but I also live alone. Sasa says, I think grist can differ a lot depending on woolen versus worsted.
Yes, it can.
Absolutely.
Grist can change a lot.
And Molly says, I'm halfway. Time for the chaos bobbin to order bobbin swap.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had somebody on Instagram posed an interesting question. They're spinning in order. And this year I did a regular repeat of hand-dyed bat signature blend. And that repeats. And they're planning on doing a 2-ply. Spin the first 6 days on one bobbin, next 6 days on the next. And they want a good intermixing of the smoother fibers with the more textured fibers. which is like the bats and like half the signature blends.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to figure out how to do that when I had a regular repeat. So if they did a regular, since I did a regular repeat, the hand die would always, well, the hand die would always match with the hand die. The bats would match with bats.
But if you reverse the second half.
So yes, I said rewind one bobbin.
Okay, yep, that's the other way to do it. Yep.
So you start from the end, so you would still get bat on top of bat in that situation. You would get hand-dyed with a signature blend, but then you would get bat versus bat.
Okay.
And you would get that kind of structure. The other option I told her was for your last fiber, split it in half, spin half of it on to finish that bobbin, and then save the other half to add to the end of your first bobbin. And so that would offset your fibers by half.
So you would
get more blending. Yeah. You would get more blending. You would get, each fiber would get blended with the two other styles of fiber.
Yeah, but that's only half blending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a way to mix up with a 2-ply.
I'm confused about my brain is still on the, what if you reverse the bobbin, one of the bobbins.
Yes.
You have.
So it currently goes hand-dyed, bat, signature blend.
Oh, because there's 3. Sorry, I'm thinking alternating 1 and 2. Yes, okay.
So if you reverse one, it goes signature blend, bat, hand-dyed.
Yep, okay, I gotcha.
So the bats are always going to match up.
Yeah. I gotcha. Sorry, I missed the whole part. There was 3 rather than just 2. If it was just 2, it would make sense. But
yeah,
since it's 3, that messes it all up.
Yep.
Sasa says, done. This fiber looks like a beautiful lagoon.
Ooh.
What was it called again?
It's dragonfly.
Ah.
Because it reminds me of dragonfly wings.
Hmm. And
or the bodies.
And dragonflies fly over lagoons.
They do.
It's so deep and meta.
There was a time when I was trying to stick to things that fly for Merino silk blends.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I know you had the birds.
It's mostly birds, but sometimes I make something and it's definitely not a bird.
Yeah. So,
but I try to stick to birds.
Where did the new name for the replacement come from?
Shimmer?
Yeah. What's the story behind that?
So what it is, it's a revision of Peacocky. And Peacocky is called Peacocky because it's like the iridescent feather part of peacock feathers. And so I was going from iridescence to shimmer. This is my colorways that are one step away from their original.
Yeah, okay.
Which happens a lot. So like I have...
Well, supply chain changes.
Hand-dyed... Well, I have like hand-dyed colorways. I have one that's called Gravity. And then I changed it by adding like one step to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is well. Because gravity wells.
Which, if you have children, your house is full of them.
There's a gravity well right in front of our refrigerator.
Things just end up there.
Yeah. So I added blue. I added a blue to gravity, and it became well, because wells are also water. Blue.
Nice. I like it. Now that I'm getting towards the end, I keep on getting these randomized slubs that I want to fix.
Mm.
I noticed my end yesterday was spinning a lot thicker, so I'm trying to be cognizant about that. Once I was getting towards the end, I was getting excited.
It's been thicker.
By the way, Molly has finished, Molly says Loving Day 6. Stephanie is done. Dave says, anything can fly if you try hard enough. I mean, that's kind of the premise.
I don't think, well, I mean, I can get on an airplane and fly.
I was going to say, that's kind of behind the premise behind airplanes.
Yeah, airplanes totally are. You can fly if you try hard enough.
So Dave says, did you know?
Oh, gosh.
The material in peacock feathers is actually brown. The blue color comes from the microstructure of the feathers.
Yes. I did know that.
I didn't know it was brown.
They're resonance cavities.
I knew about resonance cavities. That's what iridescence is.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to stop spinning for a second because it's science time. So, I used this description before. Resonance cavity? What do you mean? It's light, it's color. What is... Okay, so think about it like a guitar, right? If I pluck a string, it's going to vibrate the string and that's going to make a sound. If I shorten the string and I pluck it, it's going to make a different sound. So light actually does that, but light has wavelengths that are so much shorter than the guitar string, that you have these little cavities that are several atoms, maybe not atoms, hundreds of atoms thick, but really, really small. And if you have them at a different thickness, you can change the color based on that thickness. And the reason why you have this iridescence effect is because if I have a box and I look at it, if I've got light coming straight in, that's one thickness. But then if I have a box and I turn it and the light comes in at a different angle, well, that makes the light come at a longer distance. It changes the resonance that it's going to jump out at, and it's going to change the color you see. So that's why it has such a weird effect. And because the difference of the positioning of our eyes is enough to get that different angle, and you get this weird, like, warbly effect in your brain, and that's why it looks so pretty.
Yep. And you can also get iridescence from not having resonance cavities.
Okay.
You can have iridescence in, like, textiles and stuff because you have two opposing colors in the color wheel, that they're offset by a certain amount, that the frequencies for each, since they react to different, was it cones?
Rods and cones, yeah.
Rods and cones. I forget which one does color and which.
I think it's the cones.
The cones, I think, do color. They react with different cones. And the fact that your brain is interpreting those colors at slightly different times causes you to experience iridescence. So this is particularly notable in the colors of magenta and chartreuse. And so those colors often, the use of those colors in textiles often results in what we call iridescence. Okay. And I've used that a lot in blends.
Sasa, by the way, says, I love that I always learn something on these live streams. And I love that we have the opportunity to teach someone something. I feel like if I can teach somebody something new every day, then I'm doing my job. I had to use this type of explanation, incidentally, a lot at my previous job in a solar cell factory because we were applying a silicon nitride layer to protect the solar cells. And when when they came out, people would say, okay, well, I actually asked the head scientist what thickness they should be, and they said, well, the thickness should be blue. And I mean, he's not wrong that you needed to get a particular color of blue based on the thickness you were getting in that resonance cavity. And the reason why actually was for, if you considered the steps going down in the process, that you're putting other layers onto it, eventually it would turn black. And of course, black is absorbing all the light and getting into the most solar power generated. But
you can make solar cells in a variety of colors. Blue is just the most efficient.
Yes. Well, black is the most efficient, but before it gets in the panel, blue is most efficient.
Okay.
But I would always say, look, if somebody wants a green solar cell on their house, a green solar cell is going to be a lot more efficient than no solar cell. It's less efficient than a black one, but whatever. So, yeah, I had to explain to a lot of the operators that no, they weren't just applying this weird blue spray paint that sometimes came out green. It was because of this. Yeah, really. Dave says, by the way, Mare says that magenta is not a real color. It's imaginary.
Yes. Yes. I have had this conversation with...
Oh, please elaborate.
With Mare, that magenta is not a real color. Magenta... So, yes. Physically, magenta doesn't exist.
I think you've broken Jill.
Physically, magenta doesn't exist.
What does that mean? Is that like centripetal versus centrifugal?
No, it is. We do not have color receptors that can perceive the color that we call magenta.
Well, but we don't have color receptors that can receive most of our colors. It's a combination of multiple receptors.
Yes, but even the combination of our receptors doesn't come to magenta. Magenta is a figment of our imagination.
Okay.
It is an artificial construct. It is something that our brain interprets a certain set of wavelengths as magenta, but it is not directly sensing that wavelength.
But how is that different than, you know, let's say we've got red receptors, right? But how is that different than looking at orange? Because we don't have orange receptors.
No.
Our brain interprets the receiving of multiple signals from our red and our blue and our green receptors, or whichever receptors we have, and combines that to create orange in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that different than magenta?
There is a difference. I forget exactly. Meredith knows.
Well, Dave is saying here, there's no single wavelength for magenta.
Yes.
Is what our brain tells us if it sees a certain mix of colors. Okay, so it's the fact that physically
there's
no individual wavelength for magenta.
Yes. It is a combination of wavelengths that we perceive as a single color.
I don't know if I buy that. That's like saying there's no sound. Sound is just a combination of different...
Well, the problem is that magenta is a mix of red and blue, which are on opposite sides.
Sure.
So you can't get a singular wavelength that creates that color. It always has to be a mix.
I think I'm bothered by the concept that colors must be a singular wavelength. I think that bothers me.
I'm going to agree with you.
I think that a lot of colors are singular wavelengths, but
not all colors are singular wavelengths.
I don't think something to be defined as a color, it must be. That's like saying there is no sound that is not an absolute tone. My voice is not a sound. It's a combination of multiple tones, so it's not a real sound.
I'm on your side.
Okay, good. And because Dave and Meredith have to type, they lose because they're arguing slow, right? Let's see.
I mean, Meredith's a chemist, so...
Yeah, so she's not a physicist.
So she has a very physical sense of color.
No, she's got a chemical sense of color.
It's still based in physics.
Yeah, right. Kathleen says, orange wavelength is between that of yellow and red, but for magenta, you need to combine the opposite ends of the whole spectrum.
See?
Okay. So Dave says, there's a single wavelength that is orange, there's no single wavelength that is magenta. And Molly says, light ain't dye. Okay. So I guess we really get into the colloquial definition.
And I can bring this into,
color.
like, this is why Ravelry is bad.
Oh, okay.
For those who don't know, Ravelry changed their, like, web design in mid-2020, which was probably not the best time to usher in a massive graphic design change.
Yeah, let's take something you're comfortable with and just poke you in the eye while you are getting poked in the other eye.
Yeah, exactly. And they introduced some colors that, well, they have different focal depths.
Right next to each
other. Next to each other.
When we were in grad school, we went and saw a talk about a guy that said it's something that is problematic when you introduce two colors that are right next to each, that are on opposite ends of the color wheel, because your eye has difficulty focusing on both of them. So he actually
You really shouldn't combine red tones with blue tones unless you want to annoy somebody.
He actually said in the talk, if you want to piss somebody off, wear a red shirt with blue pants. Yeah.
And it's because the wavelengths, the cones in your eyes, they're operating at different focal depths. And if you're extremely nearsighted, and some other people who have some visual sensory processing concerns, it can be quite irritating and cause things like migraines and seizures and general annoyance. And Ravelry did this, and even to this day, unless you go for outside help, there's not a fix for this. So there is a part of the population, and this isn't the only thing wrong with the Ravelry redesign, but it's one of them. It's the one that affects me. I can't deal with their color choices. I have to use a plugin to revert back to the old colors so that I can use the website without my brain getting all tingly, which is like the weirdest sensation to like try to explain to people, that looking at a website makes the back of my head buzz.
Well, you were even saying that there was somebody who had military experience and said, yeah, this is exactly the same sort of thing that we do sometimes to torture people.
Yeah. So, and there's been surveys done and stuff and showing that it mostly affects people who are nearsighted. And it is totally this, for some of the issue. It's not the whole issue, because I know other people who aren't nearsighted and still have issues with Ravelry. And even if you change the color scheme, they still have issues. But part of it, for me, my issue is I can't use Ravelry defaults because of the colors they use. Because they use like this reddish orange color as well as like a bright cyan. And I'm extremely nearsighted, and I have issues focusing on both of those colors at the same time. So it makes the back of my head buzz. And like there are textbooks on graphic design that say, don't do this in web design. Don't combine these type of colors. So, education. So if anybody ever's like, there's nothing wrong with Ravelry, now you know one of the things that's wrong with current Ravelry.
Physically wrong.
Physically wrong.
Incidentally, Dave has made, I think, the most accurate statement, which I think we can both agree to, where magenta is a color. It's not a spectral color, since you can't create it with a single wavelength, and that I will agree.
Yes, I will agree with that.
Also, Cornwall Crafter says, good morning, and you came in at the most bizarre moment, right, with all of our discussions on color here. Kathleen says, if you're wearing glasses at all, it gives you more sights for differential refraction, which can make the focal difference worse.
Yeah.
And Charan Char, I hope I said that name at least partly right, says hello.
Hello! Yeah, I just got new glasses, and they were like, oh, well, your insurance will cover even higher index lenses than they have before. And so I was like, great, let's go that. Lighter lenses all the way. And I've now realized these are also larger lenses than I've had for a long time. And I now realize that looking at like the TV, if I'm not aligned just right with the TV, if I'm looking towards the edge of my lens, the diffraction, I can see the separate LED colors in the whites. So I was like, Nick, is this because I have higher index lenses? And so there's more diffraction. He's like, yes. I'm like, good. I'm glad I understand my physics.
Science, it works. So yeah, this is a spinning podcast.
We also talk about a lot of other stuff.
Colonel Crafter says, I knew you were talking about Ravelry straight away. Actually, we didn't get onto that topic until very late into the color discussion / argument.
But that's part of why magenta results in iridescence, is because it isn't a single spectral. It isn't a spectral color, and it is multiple wavelengths. And so it kind of makes your brain work extra.
So now we need to understand why magenta's fine, but Ravelry is not.
That's a good question.
Yeah. But a question for another podcast.
But I think it's the contrast.
Well, it's also a question for another podcast.
Yes, it is, because you're done.
I'm done spinning. So, I told you that I had a very tasteless dad joke.
But it's not an uncle joke.
But it's not an uncle joke. Water. Water's tasteless. I love that I can still break you with these. Thanks for joining us. Remember, this is halfway through, so get yourself another clean bobbin for tomorrow.
We'll see you for day 7.
We'll see you for day 7. Good night.
Bye.